So hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is just offering a few short keywords that I think would help localize the experience that you might be having with the lunar eclipse and solar eclipse that's coming up. And more importantly, the natural transition or the natural arc of growing into something that is completely fresh and new for you, and leaving behind the things that you no longer value and wish to align yourself with. So that's the goal today. That's what I want to do. And as I said, just to give you a localizing experience for where these nodes are landing in your astrology chart, as well as how these solar eclipses will be illuminating these two different realities. One is, what am I leaving behind, and what am I ready to come into? Okay. So, a quick announcement. If you haven't watched the playlist, or you haven't watched the series that I've been doing with all of these planetary alignments, North Node in Aries, etc., new phase, Mars, Venus, then in the description in the comment section is a link to go and watch all those videos. It's in a playlist, okay? It's important because it gives context for this video that is part of this ongoing series that I'm doing, okay? And then in the next couple of days, I'm also going to be talking more about the Evolutionary Astrology Immersion, and more importantly, what it actually is about and why it's so important to learn to open up our perceptions and begin to experience astrology in a more somatic and more wilder way, rather than the sort of like boxed in definitions that we've essentially adopted as we've been learning astrology. So I want to be talking more about that in this video series. Okay, so let's begin with what I think is important to note. This is for some of you that maybe are a little bit more advanced, and if you feel comfortable with this, I think you would get a tremendous value from understanding it this way. And I'm going to try my best to try and communicate this to you, what I want to say, so that anybody can do this synthesis, but it does require a little bit of astrological proficiency. I'm going to try. Okay. So the first thing is the North Node is in the sign of Aries, and the South Node is in the sign of Libra. Okay. These signs, Aries, Libra, have got planets that are associated with them. They are currently both the Mars and Mars and Venus are currently in Aquarius as of the recording of this. So when you try to interpret the meaning of the South Node in Libra, you have to then locate the planet and then filter the planet's location through the South Node. So if Venus is currently in Aquarius, then Venus in relation to the South Node is evolving prior life relationship patterns, or prior relationship patterns that you have within your life. And in Aquarius, it's wanting to break that apart. So you can already see the effect of that happening here in Sweden. As an example, Sweden joins NATO. And that is after 200 years of non-sort of like alliance to any continent or country. So there they've already broken that bond. Right? The previous diplomatic relationship dynamics, South Node and Libra, has been broken by the action of aligning with NATO. This is kind of how one of them would work out through Sweden. Now, there's many different examples of that in many different layers. That's just one example to illustrate what I'm talking about. The North Node in Aries is ruled by Mars. So you want to then look at Mars to understand the context of where you're evolving into. So Mars is in Aquarius. So Mars is also, in this example of Sweden, Mars is saying Sweden is, through its negotiation, stepping into a completely new territory. Right? Mars and Aries, right? They've taken action, Mars, to break apart from these previous patterns of diplomacy and move into an allegiance and alignment with something completely new. And so for a lot of people here in Sweden, this is a step in a place that feels very foreign in many ways, or odd or strange, because for 200 years, most people are not alive right now. That is a very far away place. And so this is a new sensation. This is a new set of feelings. and you're getting the point here. Now that's being said, if you want to understand these eclipses for you personally, you have to know that this south node and north node is also evolving your current natal Mars and Venus. Okay? Meaning, if you want to understand what relationship patterns are breaking down, the location of your Venus in your natal chart will tell you specifically. So there's an extra layer here. There's your Venus might be in the 5th house. The transiting south node with Libra is at a certain place. You have to understand that that south node in Libra is being evolved through your local Venus signature. Okay? Your north node, wherever that is, so wherever the north node is currently right now, that's evolving your natal Venus, your natal Mars. Okay? So you got to look at your chart and you say, my Mars is in the 3rd house, my Venus is in the 7th. So this current lunar and solar eclipse is currently evolving those 2 planets for me. That's the context. Okay? You can't understand the astrology if there's no context. So with the south node, like in my case, I'll use my example, right? Mine's a little bit silly in one way because my Mars and Venus is both in the 8th house. So my south node is my transiting south node, the current south node in Libra, is in my 9th house, and the north node is in my 3rd. Okay, that's there. So the current north node in my 3rd house and the south node in my 9th is evolving my natal planets. Okay, so that's the context for me. That's what makes it unique to me. So my attempt here today is to say, here's a few keywords that you can reflect on and meditate on, and then correlate them to your natal planets. So again, if you have this solar eclipse landing in your 1st house and your Mars is in the 6th, then the new fresh beginnings that is coming out of the solar eclipse is evolving the current conditioning of your Mars, which may mean that for a long period of time you felt emotionally complexed around taking action. Right? Mars in the 6th can often be somebody who struggles with an underlying sense of inadequacy. So this underlying sense of inadequacy related to the current solar eclipse might mean that you might want to break out of that or begin making choices that heals that complex within you. Understand what I mean? Okay. So that's like, if you're really, really working with EA, then that's how you understand the planets themselves. As I said, that might be a little bit too much for you guys. Of course, you can pause the video, come back to it, etc. But that's how you truly understand what is happening for you. And I'm sure many of you actually know that, right? You already know that this current solar eclipse is evolving something within you. You feel that emotionally within yourself. But if you want to take that extra layer of analysis, you will find that the actual thing you can pinpoint in your astrology chart. So that being said, it doesn't mean that you need to know that in order to be able to grow with this lunar eclipse and solar eclipse energy. Okay, it's going to happen either way. It's just a case of, okay, now I can really, really see it, as opposed to, I can see it. Okay, so let's start off with, if you have the solar eclipse landing in your 1st house and lunar eclipse in your 7th. Okay, the solar eclipse in your 1st house says, I'm ready to take up space in a completely new way. I'm ready to grow beyond these definitions. I'm ready to take up space here. So what I'm asking you to do over the next month and a half is to really ask yourself, where am I ready to begin taking up space? Where am I ready to allow this new direction to fully become where I want to be all the time? Okay. As I said in the example, let's say your natal Mars is in the 6th and you've struggled with the feelings of inadequacy that stopped you from taking action. Well, this energy says this is a time to start taking action to heal that. Maybe you have Mars in the 10th house and you've wanted to change career, and you've got the solar eclipse in your 1st house. This is the time to say, I'm ready to take that leap. I'm ready to go in that new direction. Okay, I'm ready to take up space in the place that I really want to go to, as opposed to where I've been with before. Does that make sense? Okay. So if the lunar eclipse lands in your 7th house, what you're saying goodbye to is no longer being in relation with patterns that are not fair or balanced for you. Okay? What expectations do I want to move away from? What expectations and dependencies am I moving away from? Okay? All right, let's move on to the second one. So, if the solar eclipse is landing in your second house, you've got a lunar eclipse in the eighth. So, the solar eclipse in the second house says, I'm coming into contact with my personal needs and the instinct to self-preservation. Where am I learning to say no? Where am I learning to say, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I'm not? This is what I'm ready to hold, this is what is too much for me. So you're learning here with the solar eclipse to open up and to come into new dynamics, new relationship dynamics to yourself and what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to, particularly the emphasis on the word no. Okay? Or yes to something that you know is right, and you're like, yes, this is where I want to put my energy. No, this is where I don't want to put my energy. Okay? So if the lunar eclipse lands in the eighth house, then what you're moving away from is attachments that have not been equally beneficial for you. So where am I learning to say, this is no longer what I want to give my power to? I'm no longer aligning with this attachment. This attachment is not empowering to me. This association, this bond that I have is no longer what is working for me. And so you might find with the lunar eclipse in the eighth house that you've been really working through relationship patterns that have been disempowering to you, but now you're ready to make the cut. Okay. So the solar eclipse lands in the third, lunar eclipse in the ninth house. So here with the solar eclipse in the third house, I'm opening up to new ways of thinking. I'm opening up to new ways of perceiving things and seeing things that are ordinarily not there. So let your life become more wondering. I wonder what is down there. I'm open to this suggestion. I'm trying this thing out. Let's see where this takes me. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm curious. So the solar eclipse is pointing to where there's a potential to open up space and to come into a space of new, fresh ideas, new, fresh communication, new, fresh perspectives, and to allow your eyes to open up more. With the lunar eclipse in the ninth house, it suggests that you're moving away from belief systems that have felt or have been limiting to you. Where do I hold something? Where do I believe something? What truth no longer resonates with me anymore? I'm learning to walk away from that. And no longer am going to be attached to this underlying truth. It no longer facilitates or is in alignment with what is true for me. Okay? Okay. Solar eclipse in the fourth, lunar eclipse in the 10th. So solar eclipse says, I'm ready to come into a new way of relating to my emotional needs. I'm ready to take up space and say, I want to care for myself. I want to create space for me to feel safe in what I would call home. I'm ready to make a new home for myself. I'm ready to come into a new identity, a new nourishing relationship to my inner parent. Right? The one that takes care of me, the one that makes the decisions, that knows, that is looking out for me. Okay? I'm reshaping the way that I parent and mother and father myself. Right? And that looks like strong, healthy boundaries towards things that are good for me, and allowing myself the emotional sensitivity to take care of when it is that I need to take care of myself and not overextend emotionally or give too much or give too little. Okay. Lunar eclipse in the 10th says, I'm walking away from the direction that I once thought was the right direction. I'm walking away from how I've used to define myself. I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for a new identity. Okay? This is no longer the place I want to move towards. I'm letting go of the expectation, the role, and the definition of what I consider to be achievement, but into something that feels more real for me. Okay, solar eclipse in the 5th house, lunar eclipse in the 11th. So the message here with the 5th house is, I'm ready to say, I'm proud of what I do. I'm ready to say, I'm going to acknowledge myself more. I'm going to allow myself the presence to say the things that I do, the things that I love, the hobbies that I enjoy, the creativity that I want to experience. These are things that are real for me, and I'm going to define them as real for me, and they do matter for me. I'm validating me. The 5th house, this is for me. It might not be for you, but it is for me. That's the 5th house solar eclipse. You're stepping into empowering this creative sense of, I am ready to take up space for me. This is what I like for me. Lunar eclipse in the 11th house suggests that where have I been but not felt belonging? What group or association have I noticed I've outgrown and I no longer resonate with? So where am I ready to let go of a sense of connection with those that I do not resonate with anymore? I'm ready to leave that. Just like with the 10th house, I'm ready to leave the expectations and definitions that no longer resonate with me. The 9th house, I'm ready to leave the beliefs that no longer serve me. Okay? So solar eclipse in the 11th and the 6th house, lunar eclipse in the 12th. So as we know, the eclipses are happening in Aries. The North Node solar eclipse happens in Aries. So I'm ready to create more competence and order in my life here. I no longer need to be distressed by the chaos of things. I'm ready to just make things simple. I'm ready to come into more cleaner ways of being, and I want serenity. I'm ready to make and create more serenity for me. I'm ready to accept life as it is rather than to try to make it perfect. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I will prioritize more serenity, more peace, okay? With the North Node sitting there in the 6th house. Now, the South Node in the 12th suggests that I've spent a lot of time feeling that chaos, feeling disorder, feeling the abstract, feeling the non-dividedness, or that where things are not divided, or not divided, but they are not defined. I've lived in that world. I want to walk away from things that feel abstract. I want to walk away from things that feel chaotic. I want to walk away from things that have felt tumultuous and that are in a constant flux, and I want to move away from that. I'm ready to let go of things that no longer serve me at a deeply meaningful way. Okay? North Node in the 7th house, South Node, and the lunar eclipse in the 1st, right? So with the solar eclipse in the 7th, you're saying to yourself, I'm ready to start relating in a completely new way. I'm ready to come out of the hiding pattern, and I'm ready to say yes to some experiences to learn more about who I am through others. And sometimes I'm learning also to say, no, this is too much social interaction for me, and I'm going to spend some time just kind of paying attention to myself and doing my own thing. And then when I'm ready to come back out into the world, that's when I'm going to do that. So if the solar eclipse is landing in the 7th house, you're reordering the way that you relate in a social situation, what relationship patterns you want to be open to, what you do not want to be open to. So where am I ready to change my relationship to social interaction? How is my relationship changing to social interaction? Can I define a boundary here and not? I say, this is what's not okay for me, this is what it's okay for me, and so on. With the South Node, lunar eclipse happening in the first house, we're saying I'm walking away from where I've taken up space and this hasn't been correct for me. This is very much like having this lunar eclipse in the 10th, where every day I make a choice and I take up space here that I become defined by. Well, with the lunar eclipse in the first house, it says the end of how I have gone about things in my life and how I've taken up space and decided that this is who I am. I no longer want to give attention to that. I'm ready to try something new. I'm ready to experience collaboration, maybe in a relationship. I'm ready to grow beyond the way that I have maybe instinctually just thought that all answers to life must come through me just doing it myself. But maybe there's another way to be in relation, to ask questions, to open up. So a past set of choices have led to a certain direction in life. The lunar eclipse is saying, is this still the direction you want to go? And for the most part, you're probably saying no to that. Right? This is not how I want to show up in relationships. Okay. Lunar eclipse in the second house, solar eclipse in the eighth. So with the solar eclipse in the eighth house, very much like with the lunar eclipse, in the sense that here I'm ready to take up space and ask the question, is this safe for me to commit? Am I ready to challenge my pre-existing feelings of safety and trust my instincts and say, I'm ready to open up and commit here? You might be asked, there might be an invitation through what is going on in your life right now with the solar eclipse to say, I might have to open myself up to a collaboration. I might need to open myself up to experiencing something new that requires more transparency and openness and vulnerability. With the lunar eclipse in the second house, it may be something to do with the way I may have felt safe in the past and how I've been self-preserving has restricted my ability to feel that I can grow. So I'm very content in my space. I'm very content with where I am, but I'm very limited in my ability to grow beyond this, because growing beyond this means challenging what already feels safe to me. So the lunar eclipse may say to you, where has your sense of value, where has your sense of what you consider to be resourceful for yourself reached a point of limitation? Because being self-contained means, okay, well, I've got everything, but I don't feel safe if I have to expose it to other people, because, what happens? That's a very kind of classic Taurus theme of, I don't want to expose myself to more than what is around me over here, because, well, that could threaten that structure. And yet Scorpio literally comes and pulls the rug from under your feet and says, you have to learn that resilience comes from experiences rather than just hiding away from it. So where am I ready to stop hiding? Okay. Solar eclipse in the 9th, lunar eclipse in the 10th. So solar eclipse, as we know, is about taking up space and moving in this direction, saying, this is where it's fresh for me. This is where it's new for me. So you will find with the Sagittarius 9th house energy, open yourself up to new adventures. Sagittarius is very much about expanding the eyes and the senses to see things that we usually wouldn't see because we're living in a kind of routined way. So try to grow beyond what has become the definitions and the routines and the consistency of repetitiveness within your life. Take a chance, travel a bit more, open yourself up to more feeling like more education, learn something, align with a certain philosophy that seems appealing to you, which I think is probably going to occur, and just see where it takes you. Just travel without any intention other than to just be free. Because the lunar eclipse in the third house says, I'm ready to let go of a set of definitions that I feel I've outgrown, a language that I feel I've outgrown, a perspective that I feel like I've outgrown. I'm ready to go beyond that. Sun in the 10th, lunar eclipse in the 4th, right? Lunar eclipse in the 4th, solar eclipse in the 10th. So with the solar eclipse here, again, this is about where am I ready to actually take up space and say, I am going in a new direction. I'm ready to go in a new direction. The lunar eclipse was, I no longer feel this direction is the correct place for me. The solar eclipse is, I know that this direction is right for me. And I'm going to now begin to take up space. I'm going to now start defining myself through this new way. I want to come out into the world. So this is, I'm ready to start that business. I'm ready to start that YouTube channel. I'm ready to begin this career. Okay. What am I defining myself? I'm ready to define myself. Lunar eclipse in the 4th house points specifically to the part of you that's ready to say, I'm done with all of the emotional dynamics and family of origin patterns. I'm ready to grow beyond that. I'm ready to say, whatever I have been conditioned by and defined by and how I've been impacted by my childhood, etc., I'm ready to grow beyond that. So for me, I'm ready to say this is the end of this relationship pattern, this emotional pattern, and I'm ready to take a new step in a new direction. Okay. So here we have the second last one, solar eclipse in the 11th house, lunar eclipse in the 5th. So the lunar eclipse is saying to you, the solar eclipse part of me is saying to you, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to open up and come into the space of individuation. Where am I opening up to new sets of experiences that are completely different to what feels safe and secure for me? The 11th house can be seen through groups and associations, but it can also be seen through the lens of this no longer feels like this is the place I want to be. I want to grow beyond that. So having the solar eclipse in the 11th house is like, wow, I am really ready to innovate. I'm really ready to actually go further than what the consensus is saying right now. I'm ready to take that leap of faith. I'm ready to decentralize myself from these ideas and these points of views and these perspectives. And I want to find it out on my own. I'm ready to go on my own. So where are you being taken to with the solar eclipse? What adventure awaits you that you know is growing beyond what you have felt outdated by, that no longer resonates with you anymore, that says, I'm ready to take up space in this area and go and discover something highly innovative, belong to something that is future oriented, that is something other than where you're at right now, because you're probably feeling that underlying sense of loss of purpose and meaning with this type of configuration. And you're just ready to say, yeah, I want to take up space in that new place. And then make those choices in alignment with that. That's how this works. Lunar eclipse in the 5th house says, I'm ready to walk away from patterns where I no longer feel creative excitement, where I'm no longer alive, where things are now dead to me and have become redundant. They're outgrown. I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to say no to experiences and expectations where I don't feel that my heart is alive, where my creativity is fulfilled, where my child is saying, yes, let's wake up to something that feels real for me in an eventful way. Okay. Last one, solar eclipse in the 12th house, lunar eclipse in Virgo. So with the solar eclipse here, you're ready to take up space with a few dimensions. I'm ready to say, I want a deeply holistic and meaningful and real and spiritual experience. I'm ready to heal parts of me that have felt fragmented. I'm ready to align with something that is bigger than me. With the solar eclipse in the 12th house, you'll feel that calling for infinity. You'll feel that calling for something that grows beyond this current world that's defined by this. I want something that makes me feel alive in a way that is bigger than me. So where are you ready to take up space that feels like life is calling from a reality that is beyond the space, the one that is calling from higher spirit, from a place that speaks to the essence of your being. And where are you also at this point in your life seeing how things are actually fraying apart? The polarity to that experience is that you might actually be going through a realization that things that were once held together are now slowly drifting apart. And my advice to you here with this transit is to just allow yourself the freedom to recognize that whatever drifts apart will naturally attract cohesion again. So this is very much about patience with this transit solar eclipse, okay? So things are moving apart. Yes, they are. That feels scary because once things were together, and now as they're moving apart, I'm noticing that they're distancing themselves. And eventually it just fades away. But I might be taken to somewhere new. With the lunar eclipse in the 6th house, it's saying, I'm ready to walk away from crisis. I'm ready to walk away from chaos. I'm ready to walk away from the things that have been underlying my sense of competence. I'm ready to walk away from things that are judgmental, that are critical, that are not healthy for me. I'm ready to step into something that says, no longer will this pattern be pulling me down, influencing my sense of lack, or re-impacting and reaffirming an internalized sense of self-worth that is damaged. I'm ready to say no longer to this pattern of chaos or destruction or disturbance. I'm ready to grow beyond that process. Okay, so this is through all of the houses. And what you want to do here is just sit with these little words and see how they can align with the evolutionary intention that you are probably going through, because the solar and lunar eclipses through the houses is telling you the location of where these planetary energies will land and how they will be shaping your consciousness. And that is actually speaking to an even deeper evolutionary direction that you are moving through. Okay. So this is part of a playlist, and you'll see the playlist is kind of talking about all of these energies at the time. If you go through all the playlists, you'll see that everything will just kind of start to make sense for you because there's a message in each of them, okay? All right, and have an amazing rest of the day, and I'll see you in the immersion videos. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.